lovely pissing it down Saturday. Well, wherever you are, it might not be raining wherever you are. Right, I'm all hyped up. Just had a conversation with my girlfriend about football exceptionalism, where we're both getting very angry about the fact that football changes everything for our government. Exceptions to rules, exceptions to racism, exceptions to COVID. So we'll get into that. For now, I want to start off with the cartoons. As before, I am still incredibly stupid when it comes to figuring out what's happening in a political cartoon. So even if I know the story, generally I can't really tell what the fuck's happening. Don't know why. Maybe it's something in my brain, the way that it's wired. I just can't put two and two together with it usually. So we'll start off with the cartoons, see if I can figure out what's going on. Hopefully it'll help catch up with everything too. And then after that, we can get into the usual stuff. And just bear with me while I ping everything out here to the masses. How we're looking delay wise. How's the sound? Okay. Alright, folks. So, let's start. So the first one here. Oh, what's this cartoon? I can't remember the name of this. Is it American? I recognise this character. So a dude with a GOP, or a kid with a GOP shirt on, saying they're fucking real. And these tigers will say things like cancel culture, stop the steal, critical race theory, Antifa, and woke. And the GOP person, so the Republican supporter, is screaming they're fucking real. Obviously, woke and stuff goes against their political philosophy, so I'm guessing that's what that one is. Not a great start for me. Alright, so this is Biden and Putin. Biden says, this is a list of my cards that are off limits, but the one that's on the table is infrastructure sectors. Right. So that's his kind of, his olive branch to Putin, I suppose. And then, yeah, poker face. Putin's not giving anything away. That one's clear. Alright. Captain Putin. I told Biden to watch out for pirates, but I just don't see any. Behind him, election meddling and cyber attacks there. Sorry, you can't really see that properly. I don't think. Zoom in. Yeah, the two pirates say election meddling and cyber attacks. I was watching that interview on the last stream for anybody that caught that. Where again, he boldly denies that any cyber attacks are happening in Russia by Russians, which is his go-to tactic. Right, so it's an elephant, so that's the Republicans. The donkey, so that's the Democrats. Close tax loopholes, no. Beef up the IRS, no. Get a little more from everyone, no. Just people who make 400,000 plus, no. The mega uber obscenely rich, God no. How on earth will we fund government? Silence. How off earth will tycoons fund space larks? Yeah, I don't know. So this is Biden, I think. I think the talks went pretty well. He even slapped me on the back as we parted with a kick me sign. Yeah, that's great. I like that. That's pretty much it. America goes there with all these kind of promises. We're going to get them doing this. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about nuclear disarmament again, finally. And, you know, it's not like when Trump was there, because Trump didn't get anything done, but now we're going to change everything. But of course, Putin's aim really isn't to get anything moving at all. It's to kind of humiliate, in a way, America, in a sense, and kind of very much make them feel like they're the inferior person in the debate. A brief history of attempts to repeal Obamacare. That one's pretty clear. Here we go, Biden again. It's time your country stopped crushing legitimate political dissent. You first. Although, is big tech and Mark Zuckerberg a legitimate political dissent? I don't know. That's your man from Google. I can't remember his name. This is, who's that? Bezos? Bezos quite short. I didn't realise that. Who's this? Oh, and this guy. I think who he is. Oh, it's Steve. Is it the Microsoft guy? I want to say. Juneteenth, now new national holiday. Yes, so the good news is the actual date of slavery is national holiday rather than the one that everybody thinks it was. This guy now do election day. I don't know anything about the Juneteenth, so good news. Just on the dollar Trump wanted the election justice. Right, so caption reads, "One bedroom is for 675,000. Good news. Great schools. You will need to be on the lookout for schools. Property, the sheer price of properties in America, is that what's happening? Is that what that one's about? I think maybe. No. Everyone seems to be a critic of your European Grand Tour of apologies. Biden. Everyone seems to be a critic of your European Grand Tour of apologies. No, I don't know. France there. Right. I think I did pretty well. I did actually do. Okay. So, the story that I want to jump straight into, hypocrisy, is VI is to be let into England without quarantine to keep Euros final at Wembley. The fucking Euros final. A lot of these stories I usually haven't read before coming on the stream, honestly, but this one I had, because like I said, I was discussing it with my girlfriend just before I came on the stream. Plan would exempt 2,500 UEFA and FIFA officials and politicians from rules faced by other travellers. So, I mean, you can't make it up, can you, folks? Officials are doing as much as we possibly can to accommodate the European Football Championships. After it was reported, the government is to allow thousands of VIPs into England without the need to quarantine to stop the final being moved from Wembley to Budapest, the minister has said. So obviously, rightly so, we still have a lot of travel restrictions now in place. I say still have a lot, we didn't before. That's my bad. Now we have some travel restrictions in place, comparatively quite a lot to what we had before. And that means that, obviously, if you come over here, even for a football tournament, you've got quarantine as a fan. But now, the actual bodies of UEFA and FIFA are threatening to take this football glory away from Britain. To somewhere else, to Budapest, unless we say that their officials and journalists, and we'll see who else is on the list. Officials, politicians, sponsors, and broadcasters don't have to quarantine, is their condition. Yeah, the proposal would exempt about 2,500 UEFA and FIFA officials, politicians, sponsors, and broadcasters from the quarantine restrictions faced by the other travellers, according to the Times. The government announced a 4-week delay to the final easing of lockdown restrictions in England on Monday to allow more people to be vaccinated to combat the Delta coronavirus variant. So that's the dominant variant in Britain, which accounts for up to 95% of all cases by some scientists' calculations. The only teams playing in Euro 2020 on England's green list of countries that do not require isolation on arrival are Wales and Scotland. All others are on the amber list bar Turkey, which is on the red list. Travellers arriving from red list countries, sorry, bear with me 1 second. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, so all others are on the... No, let me go back. The only teams playing in Euro 2020 on England's green list of countries that do not require isolation on arrival are Wales and Scotland, for obvious reasons. All others are on the amber list bar Turkey, which is on the red list. Travellers arriving from red list countries must stay in a quarantine hotel for 10 days, while those from amber list countries must self-isolate at home for 10 days, although they can get released from quarantine early if they pay for a private test at least 5 days after arrival and it comes back negative. So this is the traffic light system that chops and changes, and countries get put on and put off for various reasons. Sometimes while just after thousands of people from the UK have travelled to said greenless country that then becomes an amber, or amber that then becomes a red, and have to flood back, rush back, cancel their holidays because they don't want to quarantine when they come home. Because it happens like that. Speaking to reporters in Kirklees, Boris Johnson said, "We'll be talking to UEFA about what they want and see if we can make some sensible accommodations. But the priority obviously has to be public health." Asked how it would be fair for VIPs to have a different set of rules from the general public, the Policing and Crime Minister Kit Malthouse said, "I haven't seen the detail of that particular proposal. One of the things we are trying to do, though, is obviously accommodate the Euros as much as we possibly can." And while much of the concern around coronavirus regulations has been about whether one situation is fair compared with another situation, what we're generally trying to do is make difficult decisions about the path of a virus at the same time as trying to enable the ordinary operation of very special events like the Euros. Very special, folks. No doubt, health professionals and the immigration professionals at the Home Office, and then the senior ministers who make a decision, will take all of that into account as we proceed. Crazy. So, more words from this minister. Look, it's a great competition. We're very lucky to have it. We're trying to make it happen with as much kind of satisfaction all round as we possibly can, and that will be taken into account in the decision over the next few days. What is it about football that changes the rules and regulations in everyday aspects of life? So there's this example which speaks about as clearly as any other that I'm about to make. 2,500 people allowed to mingle with people who have had to quarantine, but most importantly being allowed to mingle amongst themselves and amongst the general population, having not had to isolate after coming from amber and red list countries. Now, that's a clear example of flaunting the rules just to benefit football. The other examples in recent memory, of course, are fucking yesterday, where thousands of people took to the streets. DRX Desires, how you doing? Thanks for joining. Don't know shit about UK politics. Hey, SS Gas Chambers. What a name. Whew. That is a juicy username, isn't it? I bet you get into a lot of trouble with that one. Thank you very much for the follow. DRX Desires, I don't know shit about UK politics. I'm American, but have a wonderful day. And to you. And thanks for joining. This is what I'm here for. So hopefully, well, we're learning together. You know, like I said before, some of these stories I've looked at beforehand, but some of them I'm seeing for the first time, just talking through, adding the background, context and info that I know. And hopefully it's helpful. Gas Chambers, how you doing? Hello, sir. Hello to you. That's problematic. Talking to somebody called SS Gas Chambers, isn't it? A salute. But there you go. There it is nonetheless. How's your day going? So how's your night going, DRX or Desires? And how's your, I'm going to guess, day going, SS Gas Chambers? Just going to do a quick sound check here again. Make sure we're all synced. Because I've had some problems with delays recently. I must say. But I hope you're all well. Just discussing how football is something that completely throws the rule book out of the window for the government. And the fact that despite coronavirus still being very rampant in the UK, the government's considering letting 2,500 people from UEFA and FIFA, football journalists, football politicians, and other people representing the football bodies, come straight into the UK without isolating, and then being allowed to mingle and spread COVID around, purely because the Euros is so fucking important for everything else, apparently. Important enough that coronavirus rules need not apply. DRX Desires, it's going well. I'm glad it's going well. Are you having a good morning? Just got home from work. Hey, it is a good morning if you just got home from work. Now you can enjoy the day. Yeah, I suppose, is it early morning in most parts of America? I'm not sure. Is it like 8 o'clock? Like 8, 9 o'clock in most parts, I think. I'm never sure of my time zones. I'm glad it's going well. So yeah, what is it about football that means that all of the rules go out the window? Thousands of people took to the streets yesterday after the match, flooding out from the pubs into the street, not wearing masks, shouting at each other's faces. You know, come on you England, come on Scotland, and all of these different things, Scottish and English fans. First of all, I don't really get why thousands of Scots would come down to England to not get into the stadium, but to just watch it in our pubs. That doesn't really make sense to me. But then I'm not a massive football fan, so somebody would have to explain that to me, why that's worth doing for a football fan. Sounds like here America takes COVID horribly. So I heard, unfortunately. It sounds like officials are kind of getting their act together now, but I think it seems from my perspective that one of the biggest problems is that all of your states are kind of allowed to do whatever they want. So even if there's a general consensus from on high, from out of the White House, local figures can kind of throw the rule book out. Again, that's just my outside perspective. It's 9:18 on the East Coast. 9:18 on the East Coast. Okay, so I wasn't far off. Yeah, here the massive problem is that although football fans are allowed to run around in their thousands, the example that I was just discussing was we recently had a murder case. Sarah Everhard murdered in the street by a police officer, and a vigil that took place soon after that to protest not only her murder but equal rights for women and civil rights and protection of women on the streets. That protest, where there was far less people and social distancing and mask wearing was generally observed, was clamped down on fucking hard by the police. Women wrestled to the ground by police officers. Last night, you didn't really see the same level of aggression. Far more people, far less observance of the rules. What is it about football that makes it okay? Basically, a lot of mask mandates are gone. That is terrifying to hear. It sucks, I'm vaccinated, but I still wear my mask. I don't feel comfortable without it anymore. Yeah, I totally get that. I'm the same. I totally get where you're coming from. And even say here we have a Delta variant, it can be vaccine resistant in the sense that there are a lot of people that have had one dose, just a single dose of the jab, that are still getting this variant, getting COVID and getting sick, getting very sick in some cases. So 2 doses gives you very good protection against it, but means that a large portion of the population who have only had a single dose aren't protected against this new variant very well. So yeah, masks are definitely still incredibly important. Yet you get on a train and it's hot, it's summer. So, as soon as that mask becomes uncomfortable, there's so many people just ripping it off and chucking it away. And rules have been relaxed a lot already here. So there's an argument to say that, in a lot of people's minds, lockdown is over. And it's scary because COVID ain't paying attention to any of that Freedom Day bullshit that we've got going on. It's just transforming and reacting to our vaccines. And if there's people shouting in each other's faces in Leicester Square after a football match and being allowed to do so because of the supposed importance of this competition, what else is happening? And that's why, on one hand, it's surprising, this idea that the government's going to allow thousands of people to not have to quarantine from UEFA and from FIFA. But on the other hand, it's kind of expected because football does create this exceptionalism. Another very recent example is the taking the knee. A lot of football players from the England team take the knee at the start of the game now. I think they're all perhaps doing it together, I think. I could be wrong about that. And it's to protest racism. Yet, you have fans, some of which have supported the team their entire lives, going back generations, and now booing the fans for taking the knee, for protesting against racism. And again, it's this football should be different. Football shouldn't acknowledge the fact that racism exists. Supposedly. Well, that's what I hear when I hear the booing. That makes me think, apparently race shouldn't come into football. We shouldn't have a conversation about racism in football, apparently. Which is bullshit, because football's not disconnected from real life, As long as you have black players, you have black experiences that need to be talked about. What makes football so different that everybody has to stay silent or be booed by the very fans that are paid to come and see the match? No limits on gatherings either. Our government is just Blair. The only effect I had was just feeling icky after my second shot, but I was fine after. Yeah. That's the most common side effect, I think, from what I've heard, is fatigue. But, you know, it's a bit like anything else. When you hear one story about somebody feeling ill, then, you know, everybody thinks that they're going to feel ill. And you do feel ill after a lot of vaccines because you're getting, you know, some people in some cases do feel ill after various vaccines, I should say, if I'm being accurate. You know, you're injecting part of a virus into you, aren't you? You're being inoculated against something. So you may feel a bit ill, but when you compare it to the risk of getting COVID, it's nothing. No limits on gatherings. That's terrifying, for sure. There's a Foo Fighters gig going ahead at some point this year. I don't know how many people are in that. Madison Square Garden's open for business. I feel like, even as well run as these things can be, the fact is, if you pack thousands of people together, you're just asking for trouble. So it just seems that governments don't learn their lesson, you know. And if it was me, I wouldn't want to push my luck. We've got everything wrong here in this country. We locked down too late. We didn't put any travel restrictions in place. We sent out mixed messaging about rules that needed to be followed. And we eventually got something right. The vaccine rollout, fantastic, on point, ahead of most of the countries in the world. But we couldn't stop from pushing our luck. We just couldn't hold back and just get to the end. We let the Delta variant, which originated in India, straight into the country. No travel restrictions in place until it was too late, even when we knew there was an issue. You get a lot of hate here for taking a knee. Being a minority here is tough. It truly isn't safe for a lot of us here. I think it's absolutely ridiculous booing someone for taking a knee for racism. It's such a big thing that continues when it needs to stop. It's pathetic how countries deal with racism. Yeah. It's fucking crazy to see just the anger that comes out from people for what the players have now said. We're protesting against racism. And if you continue to do that, then what are you doing except supporting racism? Who's in Paris? Thank you for the follow. You're in Paris. Are you in Paris? I've got to know. Some of the people that came out and, you know, I don't know what's the opposite of coming out in support of, coming out in protest of, the knee taking, were saying, you know, oh, there's people in Black Lives Matter that are affiliated with Marxism and fans of Marxism and communism, and we don't support that, so we don't support taking the knee. For one thing, that shows an inability to separate the majority of a group from some people in the group and assume that everybody in the group follows everything that the leaders of the group believe. But I can empathise with that. But the players have now said, we are doing it definitively, not because we support Black Lives Matter, because that would be so bad, but we're doing it because of racism. We're protesting against specifically racism. And the fact that these fans continue to turn up to the game and boo, it only sends one message. Not even protesting racism alone, protesting players taking a knee against racism so much that you're willing to put them off their fucking game that you want them to win. It's a whole new level. A lot of it is performist activism. Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Although I think I've left too long between your first and second message. But yeah, I definitely know what you mean, I think. You're in Paris. That's good to know. Otherwise, I would take issue with that username. Thank you very much for the follow again. I think for me, the biggest concern that I have is our priorities. This pandemic isn't over. And even though our lives, need to get back to normal, etc., the fact is that a new variant has just appeared. It's resistant to the first vaccine that you get, and that's most people. So most people aren't adequately protected against this. Or just less than half, I think, maybe at this point. Hey, thank you for the follow, Dior. I really appreciate that. When it isn't over, why are we so quick to jump to find loopholes out of it? Football contributes to the economy. Is it so crucial that this tournament has to take place against all costs? Is the argument really that if it moves to Budapest, that's the end of football in Britain? World Cups have taken place in other countries. Most of them take place in other countries. It just makes me think that all of these things are more important than just protecting the lives of our citizens. Vampire Hunter D, what's going on? Roll on the floor laughing. UK politics? You guys have a say in your politics? Where are you from? Where you don't have democracy, I wonder. Where are you coming to us from? It's crazy. I'm Mexican, and some of the things that have been said to me about wearing the Mexican flag while graduating was disgusting. I'm sorry to hear that. In general, being called slurs and told to speak English is foul. Then you have people who swear to be an ally, but don't do anything to help Black Lives Matter, our kids in cages, hate crimes against Asians. It's sad. Yeah, this exceptionalism. It's not exceptionalism. I can't think of the word right now, but whatever the opposite of kind of intersectionality is, the idea that they'll support one person, perhaps because they know somebody of a race, but then in racism in general doesn't bother them. And like you say, things like Black Lives Matter and hate crimes against Asians, that falls by the wayside. It's this kind of narrow-mindedness of, I'll focus on this issue, but that doesn't matter to me, and that doesn't matter to me, perhaps because it doesn't affect me. And that's a problem in itself. And it makes me think of the poem, I can't think who it's by, but it is very famous, and I wish I knew the name. Of, first they came for me, but I was not them, so I didn't say anything, and then they came for that group, and I didn't say anything, and then I was left alone, and there was nobody to fight for me. It's that kind of idea that we need to get away from. Vampire Hunter. More parking spots for me. In USA, we speak ... English. Get vaxxed today. You're getting vaxxed today? It's not the official language. You don't have to speak English. Not everybody does. Do you speak Spanish in Egypt? No one has the right to tell me to speak English. That's absolutely ridiculous. Think about it though, Vampire Hunter. English isn't the original language for pretty much fucking anywhere going back enough years. People should be able to speak the language of their country. It's only been the official language of the country for a certain amount of time. Beforehand, it wasn't even the official designated language of the country. And it's only the official designated language of the country because those are the people that are in power in that country. It's nothing to do with history. If the government says tomorrow that the official language is Spanish, then what stops Dior from turning around to you and saying to you, why can't you speak fucking Spanish? That's all it takes, remember. Our understanding of what the official language is completely, it changes on a whim. There's no official version of any of this. Hundreds of years, yeah. Until a certain group of people came over, kicked people out of their native homeland, and decided that this is the language that we speak. Does that mean that everybody has to follow along? Is that how it works? Because to me, that seems like a flimsy way of dictating who should have to speak a certain language or leave. I see where you're coming from. Hundreds of years of history are important. But, to me, that shouldn't dictate that anybody has to follow it. It's not a bigger claim to the land. Yeah, I hear you, man. Hundreds of years speaking English in the USA. Totally. But only because one group of people came over, kicked other people out, and said, this is what we speak. Does that mean that everybody then has to start speaking it? There's reading education standards. I don't really see your point there. Right, but America is extremely diverse and is built on immigration, off immigration. Yeah. You deny the contribution of immigration and immigrants when you tell them that they only have to speak, they have to speak your language. Americans can vote on it. Yeah, and it's important that you have a democracy. Although I think you didn't seem to think that you had a democracy. But, just because you can vote on something and nobody's voting on whether or not they should, you should speak English, that's not what you vote for when you go to the polls. It can be interpreted that way, but it's certainly not what you're voting for. Look at history. People conquer people. Yeah, people conquer people. But that doesn't mean that those people then get to dictate what language is spoken by everybody that ever walks on that land. Fuck no. No way. There's no way I can get behind that. Just because you win a war doesn't mean that everybody born on that land then has to speak that language, or comes to that land then has to speak that language. That's insane. You can speak any language, but the language of the country is kind of a thing. Yeah, there is an official language of a country. Not doubting that at all. But that does not mean that everybody has to speak it. And you can't go in and demand that all of the government records should be in a different language and that everybody should speak to you in Spanish if you come from Spain. Rightly so. Nobody should be able to dictate or demand that anybody speaks a certain language. You can have an official language of a country. And sure, that's important for a lot of reasons, like government documents and, education standards and things like you say. But unless you're stuck on an island and you refuse to communicate with the outside world and you've got no exports, no tourism, and no international economic ties whatsoever, at some point you're going to have to speak another language. So it's kind of irrelevant past a certain point if you ever want to talk to people from other lands that were conquered by other people and they have their official languages for the next 100 years and then until they're conquered from other people, and etc., 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 etc. Dior, right? Because it was built of white men colonizing indigenous and Mexicans in North America. Yeah, this is it. Think how it will seem in 1,000 years that we've said to people, you have to speak English because 300 years ago they conquered them and kicked them out and they decided that English was the language. After a certain amount of time, this conversation is irrelevant too. So why should we fight it so passionately? Let's just let people speak whatever language they want to speak. If you want, you can, we speak the language of money. Spain is the white man? Lol. I don't think anybody's saying that. I think the issue is no island is insular. If you want to dictate, mandate that everybody speak one language when they come to your country, that's cool, but don't trade with anywhere else then. And don't let your citizens move to anywhere else. Because I tell you this, if you think a lot of Mexican people don't speak English, goddamn, you should see how many Americans over in Mexico don't speak Spanish. Because holy shit, if you think immigrants have a problem coming to America and not speaking English, you should take a look at what Americans do when they travel the world. Because I tell you, they're not jumping to learn other languages as quickly as immigrants into America. Whew, let me tell you that. Hypocrisy is important. The rules of America on language aren't followed by Americans when they go to other countries. And I suppose that's the crucial point that I should have arrived at earlier. I feel like we've been constructive. And Dior, I'm sorry to hear about the racism that you've experienced. To me, this idea of there is one language and there is one official designation of language or official designation of people, it's so insane to me. Because history is so wide and vast and expansive that all of this becomes irrelevant through time. Naturally, as people, we want to mix and intermingle. We want to trade with each other. We want to share experiences and ideas. So the idea that we want to restrict to one language or oppress or deny people that don't speak a certain language, it's facile. It doesn't work with any kind of logic in the way that the international economy even works. The greatest advances in human history wouldn't have happened if we insisted that people only spoke one language. What language do you speak in the UK? Official designated language, government-wise, is English. It's okay, not your fault, just ignorant people. I'm proud of who I am and being a first gen here. Yeah? Yeah, right on. You argue just to vampire and to peace out homes. Don't leave us. Come on, stick with it. I feel like we're getting somewhere. Don't be offended because we don't agree. I'd like you to address this point. you won't see the same take-up of other languages when either Americans go to other countries or the English go to other countries, as you see when immigrants come into England or when immigrants come into America. Far more of them learn English. We don't seem to make as much of an effort when we go to other countries to learn their languages. So if your problem is people going to countries and not learning that language, and I don't have a problem with that either. I don't have a problem with that. But if that's your problem, then I would argue that your problem is with Americans. Because, and I don't have the numbers here in front of me, but you can find them out yourself. And I bet what they'll tell you is most of the Americans that travel to these other countries and make a life, just like Mexican immigrants, a lot of those probably aren't learning Spanish. But if you compare it to Mexican immigrants that learn English, I bet you the Mexicans are winning out. Prime example of what I mean. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate because I wanted that point addressed. And I'm really annoyed that I didn't come to it until the end of our debate. It's the hypocrisy. And Vampire Hunter, I wish you well. But, you know, Europeans, Americans, the West, as it were, we do hold immigrants to different standards in that way. We say, you know, you've got to come over here and learn our language. We have a huge amount of expats, as they're called, going over there to Spain from Britain, and I don't imagine that more of those are learning Spanish by any measure. I'm going to have to look into it because there's only so long that I can keep claiming this without backing it up, but Americans come to Mexico and never adjust to our language or respect us / our culture. Yeah, exactly. What else is happening on the front pages? Third wave. That's a term that I didn't really prepare myself for, like a lot of things. I was kind of naive and expecting it not to happen. You think you get a grip on this pandemic and you think you know what's happening, and then it switches it around on you. So here we go. The government getting into trouble with its use of language when it comes to the furlough again. Boris Johnson's done this already. Boris Johnson has said that too many people have had days off, as it were, not realising that a lot of people have had those days off because they're lost their jobs. Alex, how you doing? Thanks for joining. Howdy. Do I take from that you're in America? Or is that me stereotyping? Anybody can say howdy. You don't have to be American to say howdy, Dan. Where are you joining us from? Americans do it to every country, lol. Yeah. It's almost a bit of a comedy catchphrase that if you want to come over here, speak the language, bullshit at this point, because, you know, the more we learn, the more we realise that languages chop and change all the time. The idea that anybody should have to speak something because they come over here is fucking insane. It implies that we don't ever want to move outside of our borders, but we're very happy to trade with people. It's just, whatever way you look at it, it's not compatible. Texas. Howdy. So Texas and howdy. Perfect. Hello over in Texas. Is howdy how do? Must be right. Howdy must be how do. How do you do? How do you do? How do? Howdy. That's my theory. Andrea Leadsom criticised after saying furlough has been great for some. Former business secretary claims UK's economic recovery under threat with firms struggling to persuade staff back to the office. This is Britain's great drive to get people back into the office, purely because of the businesses, first of all, around those offices that rely on people getting coffees and getting sandwiches and, you know, all of that part of the economy, which is bigger than, you know, you might think. But then, more importantly, property. The big P, which is what all of the cities in England are all about. And a lot of the politicians have a lot of money in property. In terms of government connections, property magnates are huge. How do you do? I'm good, thank you, off the books. I have been riled up today by yet another decision that is letting football fans and football journalists and football officials follow a different set of rules than everybody else in my country. And I took that energy and I brought it to Twitch. And I have not been let down by anybody. I've had some great conversations already today. How are you doing? How's your day going? Property controls so much, and over time it's only become more and more linked to politicians' interests. So when they see that less people are working in the offices, they can fast forward 20 years in their minds and just see the inevitable, which is that the less people that spend time in the offices are more inclined to not really feel like they have to live next to the offices, which means that more people are going to move out to suburbs, countrysides, and that's going to take power away from these cities. And more importantly, it's going to take money away from these cities. And that means that property developers get less money, and that means that they give less money to the government. Find a real job. Get out of here. I'm so slow to ban people. Notorious 50 and 1. Thoughts on Brian Rose for mayor? Pull the other one. It's got bells on it. He had his chance. Nobody wants that. I'm not going to time you out, actually. Even though you've dissed streamers everywhere with your comments. I'll let you stick around for now. Maybe that's unwise of me. Maybe you'll prove why I should have kicked you out of here in the first place. But for now, thank you for joining. Look at the map. You fighting the wrong people. Who have we got here? Shlemi 22. Who am I supposed to be fighting? I'm off the books. I'm glad your day is good. I'm very glad. Bear with me one second. I'm back, folks. Wait, what? You can read my chat from other streams? What are you talking about, Notorious 50? You're losing your mind. Yeah, I'm off the books. I'm glad your day's going good. How do you feel about the US government funding the C virus lab in China? I don't know about this. I've tried to keep up with Biden's investigation into Wuhan and how coronavirus got out in the first place. I'm not completely up to date, I'll admit. Let's have a little look, actually, because it is an interesting story. What would one Google? Biden, Wuhan, lab. Let's go with that. What's the most recent thing we've got here? LiveMint.com. Is that reputable? I haven't heard of them. Live Mint. They look legit enough. I guess. Shleemy22, you're going about this the wrong way. I'm gonna have to kick your ass out of here. I play one, only one that is smart. He, sucker, try me. What are you talking about? Start making sense in the next 30 seconds or you're out of here. I'm timing as well. I'm looking at the timer. UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said that officials compared notes over the theory that COVID-19 pandemic may have originated from a leak from a lab in Wuhan, calling for further investigations. World leaders gathered at the G7 summit in Cornwall discussed the possibility that a lab leak in central China's Wuhan city may have a connection with the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've always known this was a possibility, right? With the World Health Organization chief saying all hypotheses behind the origins of the deadly disease remain in play. All is on the table. Compared notes, He asserted that the UK's best information remained that it jumped from animals to humans, but admitted that they did not have all the answers. There's going to be a lot of crazy theories flying about until we get more info about this. What I'm interested in is what happens if the worst case scenario is revealed and that there was some kind of unforgivable level of failure when it was leaked from a Wuhan lab. And, if they discover that there was kind of no effort made to contain the pandemic, essentially, from a Wuhan lab, how does America respond? Sanctions? A good telling off? Where does this go, except for learning the lesson? Oh, Shleemy22. I gave you a chance. Sorry, folks, that you've had to hear that language. I'll go ahead and dispatch with Shleemy. Full ban. Lovely stuff. Alright, sorry about that, folks. There's always one. That's what they say, innit? Bloody hell, there's always two. Oh my god. I can't win. I can't win. Funny how one troll can derail everything. Right, I'll attempt to find my thread of where I was before all of this began. All of this madness began. So, I'm not going to get derailed by Wuhan and COVID origins, though I do appreciate the input, and it is interesting to get up to speed with. Let's get back to this story of furlough. So, the former business secretary, Andrea Leadsom, has warned that some people are reluctant to go back to work because furlough has been great for them, while others were terrified of going back to the office, sparking criticism from workers and business owners. The Conservative MP said some businesses in her South Northamptonshire constituency were struggling to get employees back to work because people have, to be perfectly frank, become used to being on furlough. So far, so fine. Leadsom told BBC Radio 4's Any Questions. For some people, they're just terrified. So it's like, I've been on furlough for so long, I really can't face going back to the office. And employees are rightly saying, well, you need to. Getting there, terrified. So there's that issue, the mental health issue, the fear of it. It's presumably being a workplace where the government hasn't mandated in any real forceful way that workplaces need to abide by COVID healthcare provisions and provide them for their staff and actually make workplaces safe since the start of the pandemic. That might be the it that Andrea Leadsom's referring to. Just guessing. So there's the issue, the mental health issue, the fear of it. For other people, it's like, well, actually being on furlough in lockdown has been great for me. I've got a garden. I've been able to go out walking every day. I've got great vegetables growing. I don't really want to go back to work. Maybe I'll think about part-time, or I'm going to retire early. Fucking steady on. Throwing these things all up in the air. If we can't get our economy to bounce back, then we can't start to pay this huge bill that we've already incurred for this lockdown. And that's critical at this point. Getting people back to the office isn't the only way, far from it, that you can get the economy back on its feet. What Andrea Leadsom is doing is making a classic conservative conflation between the economy at large and how much money is spent in London. They're not one and the same thing. You don't have to get people back spending money on sandwiches in Pret a Manger to get the economy back up and running. It helps, but it's not essential. Leadsom's remarks sparked mixed reactions, I'm sure they did. One person wrote on Twitter, I was on furlough for 3 months last year. It affected me deeply. I felt rejected. Let's not assume how people feel about furlough. Sorry, I've zoomed myself out of the way there. Another person wrote, I think Andrea Leadsom doesn't understand how furlough works, and she's also confusing it with working from home. I know a few people who've been furloughed, and it left them in a state of anxiety questioning if they have a job to come back to. The government's furlough scheme was introduced in March last year and subsidises 80% of workers' wages in businesses affected by the pandemic, with some employers topping off the difference themselves. The scheme will begin to taper off from the end of June, with the state subsidy shrinking to 70% of wages before being phased out completely in September, something the government stuck to despite extending the lockdown measures. Oi Cadal, how you doing? Hello sir, hello to you. I can see your messages. Sorry if I couldn't see them before, I'm not sure why. I can see you. Ben Morgan from Sheffield, who owns a company that supplies crews for live music shows, had all his employees on furlough since the first lockdown last year, 90 employees. As much as Morgan is grateful for the furlough scheme, he fears it might not be enough to keep his company in business and is trying to secure another loan to tide him over until restrictions for his sector end, which will be on 19th July at the earliest. Important to remember, of course, that furlough is portrayed by some as free handouts from the government. There's only a finite amount of time that we can give away free money to businesses. They should be grateful for what they have. Just remember, they're being forced not to trade with their customer base and interact face to face with their customer base by the government because of this pandemic. I don't think Andrea has much of a grip on what workers really want, says Morgan. We surveyed all of our workers who are on furlough about availability and when we can work again. And the overwhelming majority are ready to get back to work. In fact, desperate to go back to work. Morgan also fears the money his company, which had an annual turnover of about 800 grand a year pre-pandemic, has received from the furlough scheme might not be enough to secure the future of his workers' jobs. Oikadal, you were so curious to see whether or not your messages were showing up, and now I haven't heard from you. Come on, don't leave me hanging. He said, if I get this loan, I can hold on to 1st of September. If by then the restrictions aren't lifted, I'll be done. You're hearing a lot of this at the moment. For a lot of people, this is the last straw. And if I'm being particularly critical, you could say that a government that keeps promising that things will end on this day and then that day, but no, actually this day, and making false promises to so many people time and time again, that affects business decisions as well. And so you will hear a lot of people saying that it's now or never for them, and a lot of people that are riding their last hopes on this month and next month being the end of lockdown and being the end of being able to let people into their shops, talk face to face, have business deals face to face, etc., etc. Normal, as it were. Right. What else is going on? Let's have a look at the live updates. Live updates on COVID. How are we looking for sound? Tech-wise, we all okay? How are we doing? Okay, coronavirus live news. Surge testing rolled out in Northern Cumbria. Japan's viewing sites into vaccine centres. That sounded really patronising. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? Ooh, that's smart, isn't it? Ooh, well done. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with that. Cambodia suffers worse than UK. Apologies, folks. Sorry. How's sound going for everybody? I think we're okay, aren't we? Apologies, folks. Technical issues there. Oikadal, you've got a capital letter now. You've got a capital O. What's happened? What's changed? Do you want the British Empire back? How do I address that question? How do I begin with that question? Do I want the British Empire back? No. If you'd like me to expand on that. There is no real terms. There is no real terms everyday benefit, either in terms of quality of life or economic wealth, for the majority of people that live in Britain as a consequence of the British Empire coming back. The lives of you and I, in short, would not be improved by having the British Empire back. Just like the lives of everyday people in the British Empire weren't improved by the British Empire being there. Politicians' lives would improve. Army generals' lives would improve after they took over other countries. But everyday people, it's kind of irrelevant. And the only way you could do it would be by getting loads of slaves and shit and invading and killing loads of people again. So it's a bit of a lose-lose, to answer your question. I hope that did. Do you want the British Empire back? I have to ask you now, and I want to hear why. If you do, I'd love to hear why. Cambodia suffers worst day and UK in third wave. I'm still not used to seeing third wave. I didn't think it would happen. Incredibly naive it sounds now, but I didn't think it would happen. The Southeast Asian nation reported 20 deaths on Saturday, its worst one-day death toll, as it detected its first Delta variant cases, and authorities urged people to be vigilant. According to Reuters, Cambodia has recorded one of the world's smallest caseloads thus far, but the outbreak that was first detected in late February has caused infections to climb to 42,052 cases with 414 deaths. Disease Control Department said, please continue to be vigilant by practicing hygiene, social distancing and not leaving your homes unnecessarily. Our country and the world continue to be plagued by the COVID-19 pandemic. Ministry of Health also reported 7 cases of the Delta variant among travellers by land from neighbouring Thailand. Everyone must continue to be vigilant, said Orva Vendine, Secretary of State and Health Ministry spokeswoman. In the UK, a government scientific advisor had said a third wave of infections is definitely underway. Professor Adam Finn, member of the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, told BBC Radio 4, it's going up. Perhaps we can be a little bit optimistic it's not going up any faster, but nevertheless it's going up. So this third wave is definitely underway. We can conclude that the race is firmly on between the vaccine programme, particularly getting older people's second doses done, and the Delta variant, the third wave. This is after data showed that one dose of the vaccine doesn't give sufficient protection in a lot of cases from the Delta variant. The Delta variant accounts for 95% of all cases of COVID in the UK, in a lot of cases. Oi, Kadal. Yes, I agree with you about that, but I want the German Empire back. Fucking didn't see that coming. Holy moly. Wow. I don't know what to say to that one. If you can put something in the chat to back up that and to say why that you want the German Empire back, that doesn't involve talking about something that is against TOS and very offensive to people that will be watching the stream, then I invite you to go ahead and do so. But I warn you, I've already handed out 2 bans today, and I shan't hesitate. To hand out a 3rd banning. Anglerchain, how you doing, mate? I saw you. You started streaming. Nice. I checked out the you talking about the trans debate. That was very interesting to see you having a conversation with somebody there. Yeah, liking it, man. Glad we've got another UK voice on Twitch. Right, Oikadal, here we go. UK has a monarchy already, but Germany has to get it back. The last time Germany had a monarchy was back in the imperial times. Why does it need it back? Why does any country need an empire that ranges across different countries where they have no business being there and taking over things? Why is this necessary? And Daniel mad with power. Easy. I'll ban you as well. Yeah, I noticed you followed. Hope I didn't say anything too stupid. Nah, man, I think you're making really good points. I really enjoyed it. Power hungry. Feels good. Yeah. No. Right, come on, Oikadal. I want to hear the convincing argument why Germany needs an empire. I think you were on stream just now, I think, weren't you, Anglerchain? I think I noticed. I had a little browse while I was sorting my settings out. Did it go well? Just been jumping around the latest COVID news. So this is the 3rd wave. So Professor Adam Finn, member of the Joint Committee on Vaccination, told BBC's Radio 4 Today programme, it's going up. Perhaps we can be a little bit optimistic it's not going up any faster, but nevertheless it's going up. So this 3rd wave is definitely underway. We can conclude that the race is firmly on between the vaccine programme, particularly older people's 2nd doses done, and the variant 3rd wave. Essentially, it seemed like the success of the vaccine programme meant that we were going to be able to jump out of lockdown and back into normality quicker than anybody thought was possible. But then the Delta variant happened. It looks like that happened because it certainly hasn't been posed a stronger reason than Britain didn't lock down its travel border early enough, and it didn't put in any restrictions from India, the country that the variant originated in. And here we are. Empire doesn't necessarily need to have colonies, so I'd be fine either with or without them. Alright, fair enough, but still haven't told me why it's needed. Why does Germany need an empire? Bearing in mind that an empire doesn't mean that all of the citizens live better lives and have better healthcare and economic prosperity and all of these other things. Why is an empire needed? If the British Empire comes back and I live under the British Empire, that's... So, sorry, I can see the little delay things flashing on the bottom of my screen. There's some kind of... I hope that everything's in sync. Let me know if you're having any issues with my stream. If I suddenly am living under the British Empire tomorrow and you're living under the German Empire tomorrow, how is it going to affect my life and how is it going to affect your life? Why do you want it back? That's what I'm looking to get from you. Why do you want it back? My stream went well. I was going to cry about England's draw last night, but no one wanted to talk about it. Maybe you need a politics stream and a football stream. I think it's weird because I'm not a football fan, but usually I'll get involved when like the big tournaments come around like this. But I think just with everything else going on, it's like it feels weird. Football feels different to me. I know it's not just me. It feels different to everyone. It is different to everybody. But for whatever reason, I haven't been able to get involved this time around. Because of the Emperor. Oikudal, that doesn't explain it. That doesn't tell me why it's needed. Why is an empire needed? What are the benefits? Why do you want it? Why is it going to improve your life? University of Bristol academic said JCVI still working to decide whether children should be vaccinated, but said that effort would not be the immediate priority if it was approved. Even if some decision were made to immunise children, it wouldn't be appropriate right now, either here or anywhere else in Europe, to give our doses predominantly to children because it's adults that get sick. So vaccinating adults is clearly the priority right now. Yeah, it's a bit of a politician's answer, but it's what we all kind of, I think everybody agrees with that. Vaccinate the older people first, clearly. It's only Euros. I guess World Cup is a bigger deal. Well, yeah. Hi, Kalas. Thank you very much for the follow. Really appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. Jump in the chat. Tell me, do you think there should be a resurgence of the British Empire? Why would that improve everybody's life? Oikudal, come on, you're keeping me on the edge here. Tell me why you want the British Empire back. And tell me why you want a German Empire. You really keeping me on the edge here. I really want to know. Hi, Kalaz, I hope you're doing well. What was the latest update that I had there? Music fans attend day 2 of the Download pilot. I was glad to hear that Download got to be part of the pilot for festivals. Because it's metal. I didn't think a heavy metal festival would have been one of the ones that got to do it. I thought it'd just be the biggest festivals, but maybe it's the right size. I guess maybe it is the right size and it's all indoors. And I've been to Download and it's less. They have less tents actually, so maybe that's part of the reason. What's Angler Chain? Is the Euros like the World Cup, where? See, even from that question, the start of that question, you can tell I'm not a football guy. Is the Euros like the World Cup, where England are have a really good chance of winning? I know that sounds like a stupid question, it probably is, but is there different teams in the Euros? Like the top 3 ones that usually win, are they different from the top 3 that usually win in the World Cup? Probably not, right? Because European teams tend to win the World Cup anyway, I think. I think Britain is fine already because of the glorious Queen that you have. Well, I shan't argue with you there, sir. No, I would. I would argue with that every day. You still haven't told me. You still haven't told me. Come on, I'm dying for this. Why does Germany need an empire? And why would it benefit you? What are you looking forward to? What's in this future that you can see where you have an empire? And what do you see for yourself in that future? Why is this empire needed? Thousands of heavy metal fans are camping, singing and even moshing in the rain at Britain's first full music festival since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, the Associated Press reports. I'm not big on football. Oh, you're not big on football? I'm the same as you, only watch for big games, really. I'm a fraud. You and me both, mate. Yeah, I need there to be big stakes. I get annoyed with all the "it's coming home" bollocks, but it does get me riled up for it. When people's emotions get involved, that's when I start getting into football. I could never watch like a local game or anything. I need like hearts and minds to be tied to the result. You know, I need to know that there's people either like crying with laughter or sorrow when things go one way or the other. That gets me involved. Boykadal. Germany needs an empire so that it can get a monarchy, just like the UK, and get to the same level again? Same level again. So I'm guessing you mean like economically? Because, alright, here's the thing with that. The only way that you can achieve that kind of global economic prosperity in the modern age is by abiding by trade rules, by abiding by human rights rules. The days of flying a ship over to, Central South Africa and killing loads of people and preventing them from voting in their politics and building loads of diamond mines and, taking over the country, those days are over for clear reasons. So this idea of empire is in the past. You can achieve exactly what you're talking about through good old-fashioned capitalism, right? And you can get what may resemble an empire. You could argue that there is a Western empire of sorts. You could argue that there's a British empire of sorts. It's less easy to argue now that we've cut ourselves off from the biggest trade body in the world. But hey, my beef is with this. None of these things are going to impact your life. You get that? It doesn't mean that you're going to have a better quality of life. This kind of same level thing, people like you or I, we don't get taken along with that. The glorious queen, as you put her, I think, is that what you called her? And I'm not trying to be patronising, I'm literally just trying to say that I think with any of these debates, I have your interest and my interest at heart above the politicians and above the elites. They're the people that benefit from the empire, not the ordinary folks. Again, not trying to be patronising. Yeah, so the glorious queen, her lifestyle, it doesn't really matter how she's doing, does it? No, but Britain is the country that removed Germany's monarchy. Only when Germany gets the monarchy back can the humiliation end. I don't know, I don't want to say what everybody in Germany thinks, but I've certainly never really heard that before. The idea that Germans still feel humiliated by Britain. Maybe I don't know enough about the current situation. So I won't speculate without any information, but that doesn't seem like it would be the only way that humiliation can end. Humiliation can also end by letting go of history and by understanding that just because a monarchy was taken or given back or doesn't exist doesn't mean that you as a person who is completely separated from the monarchy and doesn't have any kind of life, isn't affected by it at all, can't move on. Angler chain. Germany is doing great, to be fair. Yes, but in an invisible level, Germany is inferior. It's not about inferiority or superiority. It's about your life, mate. How are you doing? How flush is your wallet? because the Queen doesn't come into it. It doesn't come into your family's happiness. The Queen doesn't affect that. The Queen doesn't put money on your table, doesn't put food on your table, sorry. Akala described what you described. What they did to brown people, they did to their own poor. As in, both the colonies and the poor working class at home are mistreated by empire. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I forgot you were first chatting to me when I was reading that book, weren't you? I'm probably going to read more of that this weekend as well. I think this idea of the colonial empire it's not taught to us well at all. I didn't learn much about it at all in school. And now that I have learned about it, it's made me realise how little it's taught to kids in school. And the way that it's taught ignores realities like that. The fact that it doesn't benefit most people. And this idea of the flag waving power and, then Britain won this war, and then Britain won this war, and then they took over this country, and then they took over that country. It makes it seem like, everyday people were getting something out of it. And whilst it's great to see, I guess your country doing well and taking over other countries and winning wars, I suppose it's good to see that. I say that very from a perspective of someone who doesn't give a fuck. It certainly doesn't affect your life. It doesn't, it didn't trickle down during colonial times to the poor people of Britain. And obviously it was at the expense of everybody that lived in these countries when the settlers came. Oi, Kadal, I hope I didn't patronise you there and you don't feel patronised. I appreciate you explaining the position. I just think that, if the most important thing to you is your quality of life, then the way to improve that isn't going to be pushing for Germany to get some kind of empire back. And, Germany has a huge place on the world stage. It's an incredibly influential speaker and voice in the European Union. In modern politics, that's about fucking as good as it gets. Like you said, like I said, you can't fly over there and fucking kick everyone out and starting wars. Now, it's a different world. Try sending over try putting a Cecil Rhodes in modern day South Africa now and see how far you get. If you really want this empire, just stick with this political stage that we've got, because it gives you pretty much the kind of power that you want. The Queen is the Queen. She's, there's problems with the royal family, but it's not as much a question of power as it's a question of principle at this point. And, you have there's issues with that as well. Like the Queen, we now know, has pushed to change laws, and she's used her power, which she's not actually supposed to abuse in terms of law making and breaking and rules and regulation changes. That's starting to come out. But in general, if you want this world power, stick within the rules. I'm kind of getting the sense that you've jumped out of the chat, so I won't go on about it anymore. jingoism, extreme patriotism, especially in the form of aggressive and warlike foreign policy. Yeah, Anglo-Chain for sure. What does that describe? To me, that describes Boris Johnson's political strategy. That describes Priti Patel's political strategy to a T. Jingoism, to me, is no more exemplified than Boris Johnson going down a zip wire with 2 Union Jacks in each hand while shutting down fire stations despite the fact that he promised not to. Liberal Democrat victory was interesting, wasn't it? Liberal Democrats have pulled off a stunning by-election victory, overturning a 16,000 majority in a seat that has always voted Conservative. Ed Davey celebrated by knocking over a wall of blue bricks, claiming his party was now the main threat to the Tories in many areas. The subtle impression being that they're a bigger possibility than Labour. So the party's candidate, Sarah Green, won 8,000 votes from the Tories, with the Green Party in third place. Labour had the worst by-election result in the party's history, with 622 votes. So what are the reasons? What reasons have been given for this? So Miss Green herself... Sir Ed said, "This is a great result, a huge swing to us. There are many Conservatives across the country who are now worried. People have been talking about a red wall. Well, after Chesham and Amersham, blah, 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 blue wall, Lib Dems, main threat to Conservatives, blah, blah, blah." Right, so the reasons. People here felt ignored and taken for granted, and we listened. Sarah Green is going to take these concerns to Parliament and hold this appalling Tory government to account. To me, that is implying that this local victory is to do with the national victory. And people in this local election voted against the Conservatives because of their national performance. But really, it didn't seem like the local elections we just had on the wider scale were about these national issues. It certainly didn't seem like the country was voting to decide whether the government that had mishandled the pandemic should be kept in power versus the opposition. That didn't seem to be the question on the table. Local elections, usually you talk about the local things happening. And Sir Ed Davey is certainly speaking more about national terms. I missed the Lib Dem victory, no idea what happened. I would be really, really happy if the Queen got more real power. Yeah. Well, Kadala, I think you've got to remember that I suppose ask you again, why would you want the Queen to have more power? For you personally, what would it do for you? Wakefield MP is not. Will that be a by-election? Let's have a look. Don't know if I can say that because of TOS. I think I said it accidentally anyway. Feston Choi, thanks for joining, by the way. How you doing? Good to see you again. I've missed this. I've missed this story. A Conservative MP is to stand trial charged with sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy in 2008. Imran Ahmad Khan, MP for Wakefield and West Yorkshire, denies sexually touching the teenager in Staffordshire. The 47-year-old appeared before Westminster magistrates via video link on Thursday. Reporting restrictions on the case were lifted on Friday. His solicitor said the allegation against the MP, who was elected in 2019, would be vigorously defended. During Thursday's hearing, Chief Magistrate Paul Goldspring said the case was not suitable for trial in the Magistrates' Court and sent the case to the Old Bailey. Granting Mr Ahmad Khan unconditional bail, he said his next court appearance would be on 15th of July. In a statement posted on Twitter, Khan said he denied the accusation in the strongest terms. Khan has had the whip suspended. Won't be commenting further. So yeah, he's sitting as an independent, but it doesn't mean he's been expelled from the party. So I think until he's expelled from the party, there doesn't have to be a by-election. I believe. I think that means he doesn't have to resign from his position as an MP. When did he win? You good? Good lad. You? I'm very good, thanks. I've become riled up by the news today, but I'm pretty good. I'm glad I got on Twitch and got this energy out. Right. Victory. Yeah. I'm good. And I've got no hay fever today as well, I've just noticed. So I'm very good. No hay fever is a good day for me. We just had that. When did he win? Hang on, because on here it says he's an independent. This slow internet, honestly. He's been an MP since 2019, very new. Wakefield, West Yorkshire. So that's the Red Wall, isn't it? Is that the falling of the Red Wall? Angler Chain, that's... So this is the MP, rather than a councillor. So this is the last general election. Defeated the Labour MP Mary Craig to become the first Conservative MP for the constituency in 89 fucking years. So that's definitely a Red Wall falling seat. Wakefield voted almost 2-1 in favour of leaving the European Union in 2016 referendum and was a target seat for the Conservatives. He was selected after the withdrawal of a candidate whose racist and sexist social media posts were uncovered, and now he's going down for sexual assault. Labour's Craig said, will the next candidate they parachute in be any better? Don't hold your breath. And she was right. Ahmad Khan responded by taking part in a skydive fucking hell over the town and retorted he was a local lad born and bred in Wakefield, of Wakefield stock. I couldn't figuratively parachute in, and I didn't want to disappoint her, so I decided I would literally parachute in. Way! I'm sure that got him some votes. But I wonder what the bigger trend was. Because you'd have thought that after they have to take one candidate out for, social media posts or what have you, that the next candidate would kind of carry some of that over. But the fact that it was a incredible victory goes to imply that something else was at play. I wonder if it was Wakefield EU referendum local results. 66.4% voting for Leave. That to me feels like the bigger reason at play. That to me seems like the kind of political shake-up that can turn a seat that's been Labour for 89 years Conservative. Brexit is the most powerful force, and that seems like that's what's at play there for me. Chat, please give me another reason if you think there's something else at play. But to me, that seems like I suspect Brexit is at play. But yeah, Feston Troy, that's an interesting one, man. Cheers for bringing that one to my attention. I hadn't heard of that. That's going to change things, isn't it? Didn't look at these cartoons. I was saying earlier at the start of the stream, I've started by looking at like cartoons and stuff at the very start of the stream. And I find it fun because I can never work out what the fucking cartoon's meant to mean. Like, even if I know the story, something about, like, I don't know, like the way my brain is wired, I just can't figure out what a fucking cartoon is meant to be, like what the joke is meant to be. So like with this one, the Poison Chalice. Who's that? I don't even know who that is, let alone what it's talking about. Is it? Oh, I've just noticed that he's wrapped in a St. George. So he's... Who is he? Who the fuck is that meant to be? Somebody tell me. I haven't figured out how to do... I don't know how to do predictions in the chat yet, but I would do one now if I knew how. Oh, is it... let's have a look. Is it this? Hey! Enjoy your dump. Thank you for following. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Hope you're doing well. Great username. I missed the story. Probably is Brexit there. Yeah, it was the local seat. Wakefield turning Tory for the first time in 89 years. Even when the candidate that they put in before had to be taken out because of, I think, racist and sexist social media posts, wasn't it? But they still voted 2-1 in favour of the Conservative candidate. And I was thinking, what else is at play here? And I think it's because they voted 66.4% Brexit. That seems like it's a big factor. Hey, yeah, is that Speaker, lad? Oh, fuck, I think you're right. It's him, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Let's have a look. Is that a good comparison? Not a comparison. Is that a good... what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Is it a good drawing of him or whatever? Sir Lindsay Hoyle. That's his name. Because he had that rant about Boris. Is that why? Yeah, it's him, isn't it? I'm sure it's him. I can't think who else it would be now. What party did the MP jump from? The bloke went Tory. Yeah, it was MP for 89 years. And he went Tory in 2019. It was one of those red wall seats. Yeah, it probably is the speaker. Like you say, enjoy your dump. But I don't think I know what the story is. Yeah, political cartoons. I can only get them if I know what the story is, and sometimes when I know what the story is, I still get it. I'm not cartoon's fault, I'm saying it's my fault. Caricature, that's what I mean. Caricature. Political caricature. Oh, I get this one right. So this is Johnson using Hancock as a human shield, which is quite funny. And also pretty fucking gory. No. What I said was he's totally flacking useful. Shit, man. That's basically what's happening with every MP that does anything wrong. You don't even have to do something wrong, actually. Even if Johnson does something wrong, he'll pick you up and use you as a human shield. Putin shaking Biden's hand with a badge that says, "Not my president." And Trump in his pocket. But what did he actually do for... This is what I was talking about on the last stream. Somebody tell me, in the end, what did Trump actually do for Russia? What am I missing? Because, to my recollection, Putin helped him get in by hacking elections and meddling and all the rest of it. And it looked like Trump was poised to kind of give Putin more sway and more influence and, help him get more of a seat on the world stage. But then it seemed to go the other way. And it seemed like by the end of it, Trump seemed like a bad investment. But maybe I'm not understanding well enough what happened. Oh, come on. What's happened here? Come on. Is it loading or have I just not got it? Right, on to the next one. Grabbed by the billabongs. This is the trade deal with Australia, and the lamb has British lamb to the slaughter. So this is quality of meat, I think, and the fact that the trade deal with Australia has sacrificed the quality of meat. Angler chain, Putin looking like one of the bankers from Harry Potter. Yeah, he is. They were a weird one, weren't they? J.K. Rowling's questionable creations. Feston Troy, Trump very anti-Russian in actual policy. Yeah, see, that's why I thought Biden already given his go-ahead for Nord Stream 2. What's Nord Stream 2? Biden streaming? Be good, wouldn't it? That's the day that I fear, is politicians getting involved with Twitch. Nord Stream 2 pipeline will transport natural gas into the European Union to enhance security of supply, support climate goals, and strengthen the international... Oh, so this was I looked at that cartoon when I first came on. If I still got it open. No, it was on the week. Where was it? Where's my mouse gone? J.K. Rowling, questionable. Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about the trans debate. Perhaps nobody has been more embroiled in the fire and fury of all sides of the argument than J.K. Rowling. She has, for the last year, remained permanently in hot water, as it were. I haven't really followed it lately. I've just been typing in what I've been saying, haven't I? The week, transpired of the week. Cartoons, here we go. Yeah, there was one about that Nord Stream 2 earlier. That's what I'm trying to find. Russian pipeline to Germany will make more European countries dependent on Russian gas. So it's kind of like... So yeah, it sounds... So even that surely is more beneficial than anything Trump ever did for them, right? I had it, there it is. Sorry, this is so slow. That's it there. Huh. This is a list of my cards that are off limits. And then that one on the table says infrastructure sectors. Ha 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 ha. Good one. So yeah, I suppose he always goes in, American presidents go in saying, we're going to be really tough, we're not going to give anything away here, you know, we're going to ask him about this, we're going to push him on this, and blah, 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 blah. But you do always need something, don't you? You always need something to give. And that seems like it's quite a big one from what you're saying, Feston Choi. I like that picture of Putin. That's a good caricature. The interview was quite good that CNN did with him. Was it CNN or CBS? Yeah, CNN. I think it was CNN. Just so kind of like... So, Mr. Putin, what do you say that people that say that, you know, there's evidence of Russian cyber hacking, and let me just pull out some pictures of people. So he was killed by... he had Russian connections and he murdered him. He was murdered by people that were proven to have been in the KGB. So was him and him and him and him. What do you say to that? He goes, you might say that some people have been killed, and you might say that some of them once lived in Russia, but I can tell you people that have been killed that have not been from Russia, and you tell me who is right, and you tell me what does this mean. It's just like, it's like dancing with the devil. No, it's just a really frustrating way of having a conversation with somebody. And I must think that the people that interview him must just be fucking furious after they get off the seat with him, because he's got so many secrets, and you just want to get a little bit of just something, and you never get anything. I'm ranting. What did you say you were talking about on the stream today, Anglochain? Because like I said, I didn't manage to catch it because I was on here. Was it about the trans debate again? I think that's why. he and John Burkow actually both use a bit of their initiative and just go, okay, I'm just going to do my job to that. I'm not going to do anything effective or change precedent, but get a bit creative, which I enjoy. And it's all within their position, but they just thought it was interesting for you. Sorry, I got a fucking landslides in that. Apologies. Hopefully that's worked it out. My lighting's gone a bit weird. Delay. Don't think trans stuff came up today. Black Lives Matter and racial politics came up, and for some reason feminist stuff came up. Stream is lagging, so I might miss what you say.
That will give members of the House
yeah, sorry, there's definitely a lag on the stream at the moment.
However, it is not
hopefully it's not too bad. I think I know that I'm behind.
Is not acceptable.
Like with the chat, I think the audio is like seems to be like fucking 5 seconds behind the chat. That sounds interesting, man. I'm gonna have to check it out after I jump off. Probably gonna jump off in like 10-15, I think. 10-15 minutes.
As you are both aware, the Secretary of State will be making a statement at 8:30 on COVID. That will give members of the House an opportunity to question him on the government's policy. However, it is not what I would have expected. A statement to the House before announcement to the press is not acceptable. The government determines when ministers make statements, but in doing so, they must show respect to this House. Can I just say, we weren't going to get a statement until I got involved with Downing Street. The fact is, this has been forced to actually get a statement today. It was going to be left to tomorrow, which would have been totally unacceptable. The fact is, I understand the Prime Minister at the moment is on NATO, there is a big conference going on, he isn't here. That's why I insisted that somebody...
You can't hear me at all? Oh shit. That is a problem. Is it back? Can you hear the video? I don't know what it is about 4 PM on a fucking Saturday that means that my internet congestion is apparently rammed, but there you go. There you go, what can I say? I can only apologise, folks. That's all I can do. And try and improve.
came to make this statement. The
Let me know if you can hear this video.
I thought that was better than I'm waiting for the Prime Minister to make a statement tomorrow. This House needs to know, it needs to know first.
Alright, that is its own thing.
I find it totally unacceptable that once again, that we see Downing Street running roughshod over members of Parliament. We're not accepting it, and I'm at the stage where I'm beginning to look for other avenues if they're not going to treat this House seriously. What I would say is, I think it's time for me to have a meeting with the Prime Minister to actually put on the record, here now, but with him, that this House matters. My view is, I was told no decisions have been taken. That's why I'm more shocked to know there is an embargoed list of what's going to happen to this country without this House knowing. I was told no decisions have been taken, that no decisions will be taken until the Cabinet meets. The fact is, I am being misled, this House is being misled, it is not acceptable, and I would welcome them coming here before they make the press statement, as the press have already got an embargo. And I'm sure now that the Whip is texting the Chief Whip to let him know exactly what's being said, because it's disappointing to all of us.
Look at that. He doesn't like Johnson. He does not like Johnson. And that has been clear right from the start. I think there's probably 5 times now I've seen him interrupt Boris Johnson in PMQs when he's gone on one of his, he's had a question from Starmer, like, I don't know, for instance, why was India not put on the red list when the variant was first detected? And Johnson has gone on one of these, well, if it was a Labour government, then they'd, it'd be asking us to stay in the EU vaccines measurement, and the Speaker's had to interrupt 5 times, I think I've already counted now, and say, sorry, Prime Minister, can you actually answer the fucking question? And you never see that. He doesn't like him. And I'm glad, that's his job. Should take him to task. And, somebody, sorry, let's full screen that video. Somebody needs to make Johnson answer fucking questions. And yeah, the fact that they briefed the press about lockdown being extended for another month before they brought it to the House is scandalous. It is completely fucking scandalous. This House matters sounds like my dad when I was an edgy 13-year-old. Yeah, that really tickled me. Yeah, it does have that vibe, doesn't it? It's giving a good telling off. Johnson's probably older than the Speaker as well. Yeah, and it's Johnson running off to play with his mates in a sense as well, so that dad analogy really works. Oh man. So as soon as I start to play a video, everything seems to go to shit on my stream. I don't want to see the Lib Dems smashing a metaphorical blue wall, an actual blue wall over. What have we got here? Who is President Joe Biden? This House matters. That's the US concept of taking steps towards reading Catholic politicians to the union and support Bush. I think that's going to happen in the position that politicians are from the union. I'm going to start walking out of conversations that I have with
Are you
people.
concerned about this rift within the Catholic
Thank you.
Church, and are you concerned
And yeah, no, come back. What the fuck are you saying?
Say again?
the Catholic bishops are
That's my
moving this
favourite
resolution
presidential
that would
power. Very
prevent
underrated
you
one.
and
That you
others
can just
who've,
walk away from people.
supported abortion
Never have to
from
answer anything you don't want to answer.
Are you concerned about the
Until
rift
you
in the Catholic
eventually
Church? And how do you
impeached.
feel personally?
Big up Lindsay Hoyle. Big up people that do their job and do it well. And actually try and make a difference. Hoyle's gonna, I think he's gonna be important before this pandemic debacle is over and before the next government. He's gonna be, I feel like he's gonna be influential. I feel like he's gonna probably have to make some decisions. Probably on something like whether or not something gets debated or whether or not something gets to be voted on. That's going to be very influential. Much like John Bercow became very influential when it came to Brexit and post-Brexit and what got to be voted on and not. Or not, should I say. Weird, isn't it? Now everybody wants to know what the speaker's like and what he's about. Separation of church and state. It's not over yet. I'm not sure if I actually saw this video. I like the moment when they get in the chair at the end. We had some productive conversations. The meeting got off to a frosty start as Putin told Biden in front of a chaotic press pool, jostling to put questions to the leaders, that their two countries had a lot of issues that required talks at the highest level. I think it's always been better to meet face to face, Biden said, adding that he hoped they could find predictable and rational ways to disagree.
Can you repair relations today, sir? How will you pressure Putin today? Do you feel prepared, Mr. President? Will you find common ground?
Yeah, that was one. They say Berkow's blamed Brexit because he pushed the referendum through was set up by Bercow.
And I hope that our meeting will be productive.
By they, I mean some people.
As I said,
Yeah. I think there's some truth to both sides, but I think it's one of the reasons why he was actually impartial, because even though towards the end pro-Brexit figures said that he was putting obstacles in place for Brexit happening and, you know, letting things get voted on to change Brexit in the way that it was, for, you know, for the reasons that you've just said, he's impartial. The job is to basically just kind of let politics happen, isn't it? I suppose.
Find common ground.
And that means you're always going to piss someone off.
I know that you've been on a long tour and that you have a lot of work.
Тем не менее, российско-американских отношениях поднялось много вопросов, которые требуют осветления на высшем уровне.
Still, the U.S. and Russian relations have a lot of issues accumulated that require the highest level meeting.
И надеюсь, наша встреча будет.
And I hope that our meeting will be productive.
well, thank you. As I said outside, I think it's always better to meet face to face. Try to determine whether we have mutual interests, cooperate.
Мы пытаемся определить, где у нас есть общие вопросы и то, по каким вопросам мы можем
Where we don't, establish predictable.
Oh God, what a fucking nightmare of a way to have a conversation. Jesus Christ. Just gotta listen and then have it translated and then say something and then wait for that to be translated and then listen in a different language and have that translated to you and then say something. Fucking hell. What a living nightmare. Right, 87, cheers for joining. Putin got it to me, let himself go. Yeah, come on, we all did. We all did during lockdown. You can't blame the man. You know, we all took our finger off the button. What am I trying to say? Fuck me, what am I talking about? We all took our eye off the ball. I mean, he's doing better than a lot of MPs, tell you that. Not MPs, actually. No, do you know what? Not MPs. I'm just thinking of Johnson. Anyway, I'm breaking TOS. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about people's physical appearances. It's looking great. Right, 87, where are you joining us from today? I hope you're well. Queues for jabs at England football grounds. Mad. He's got a whole palace to run in, no excuse. Even Putin's, I'm sure he won't write about me on Tumblr. That's a fair point. I think you're probably alright. I don't think you're going to get a cyber attack in. But you never know. You never know who's watching, who's lurking. UK death toll rises by 14. 10,321 on Saturday compared to 10,476 on Friday. That's not, that's not much of a rise at all. So that's promising. Although I can never remember this. The day that the cases get reported. Right, 87. Are you joining us from the UK as well, or somewhere else? I can never remember if the way that the days get reported mean that some figures are always going to be lower than others. So I can't really remember how that works. But that 10,000 and 10,000 is obviously it's okay. This is what I wanted to see. Vaccination queues form at football grounds. It's not great for such a high vaccination rate. No, I know it's not great, but it's not much of a rise from the other day, is all I mean. Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's not great at all. I was saying earlier, the UK had a chance to have a runaway success now that it's got the vaccination rollout going. That's been fantastic, better than anywhere else, really. But the fact that we didn't put travel restrictions in place early enough with India means that now we've got the Delta variant accounting for 95% of all of our COVID cases, and that in many cases that's resistant to having one jab of the vaccine. So we fucked it. We were nearly there. But we fucked it. Poland. Hello over in Poland. I went to Poland 2.5 years ago. Loved it. Honestly, probably the best holiday I've ever had in my life. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. My girlfriend's Polish. We went to Wrocław. We went to Warszawa. And yeah, absolutely brilliant. Vaccination queues form at football grounds. Several English football grounds are being used as vaccination centres, including the London Stadium, where long queues are formed as the government pushes everyone aged 18 or older to start getting jabs. Yeah, so it's come along strong. But of course, now that we have the Delta variant, I'm not trying to scaremonger here. The data shows this, you know. The second vaccine is needed to properly protect against this Delta variant because it's different. You're like the 5th British person I know that is taking our yeah. We reported earlier that a government scientific advisor said a third wave of the coronavirus pandemic is definitely underway as the vaccine programme races to outpace the Delta variant spread across the UK. Yeah, so as I say, it was all going well until then. And it seems like with the pandemic, it's always the thing that, you know, it's the worst thing that can happens. You talk about a variant that may be more infectious and may be resistant to vaccines appearing, and then it appears. It was the only thing really that could have set us back now that we've got the vaccines rolling out. And it did. It happened. Vaccine rollout in Poland. It's actually something I'm not too hot on. The EU is still bickering with AstraZeneca, so the rate at this is going, we'll have a new mutation restarting the whole effort. People are morons, not very helpful. People are morons. People that I'm worried about, really. And I won't call them morons because they have their own reasons, I guess. But there's also the lack of uptake with the vaccine, which also hinders immunity and means that things like variants can appear because of that. So you've got bickering about the vaccines, but even when they get here, then you've got some people that won't take them. You've got people that can't take them, and I completely get that, you know. But you've got some people that just won't. And I worry how much that has an effect on things like variants appearing as well. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I was interested in how Poland was getting along. So fully vaccinated 11 million. So what is that? Is that roughly, is that a third or is that a half? What's the population of Poland? $37 million, so it's more like a third, just under a third vaccinated. That's fully vaccinated. It's alright, I just think we'll have a new wave in winter. Yeah, that's the big fear, isn't it? Same here. But you know, I do hope that the vaccines put a stop to that. You know, like we've just said, it's the variants, isn't it? That's the thing that throws it all out of the window. If a new variant appears and vaccines aren't effective against it, it's like, what do you do? Oh God, we used to be at 38 million, now we're at 37.9. This is because you're taking. Hey. Right. Nobody was taken, by the way. Don't want anybody to think that's my job outside of Twitch. My girlfriend was born here. So yeah, anyway, that graph looks a lot better than England's, doesn't it? So in Poland, you're certainly not seeing a third wave, even though the vaccine rollout isn't going quite as well. The cases are certainly still going down at a greater rate than ours. Well, ours are going up. So that's good. I'm going to jump off in about 5 minutes, I think. Enough about Wakefield. I think I'm going to probably be back on either this time tomorrow, midday tomorrow probably actually, or tomorrow night, I think. So check out it, folks, if you're interested. And you know, if you want to give me a follow, then you'll get notified when I do get my ass back on stream. I think I'll be more from Kala Natives, Empire and Class in the Ruins of the British Empire, which has been very, very interesting so far. Appreciate everybody's joined and chatted today. I've had some very interesting conversations. Haven't disappointed at all. And thank you for all the follows. It's going to be an interesting month or so ahead here in the UK. There's a lot of emotions flying around. And I started the stream by talking about the fact that football and the people involved with football are given a clear exemption from the rules in a lot of cases. Not having to follow COVID rules, not having to have a stance on racism, not having to socially distance from each other when they're shouting in the street outside pubs like last night. And, you know, the fact that the Euros is here shouldn't be underestimated. In terms of emotions flying high in Britain. So I think we're at an interesting crossroads where a lot of people are, quote unquote, sick of lockdown, and we've just had our hearts broken for the umpteenth time when it comes to easing restrictions. That's the government's fault, even though they won't receive the right amount of blame yet, because we didn't put travel restrictions in place when we should have done. And now we've got a variant from a country that we didn't put any restrictions in place in for over a month, I believe. So now people are having to stay indoors again and having restrictions on their lives kept in place again. There's a lot of people saying that they're sick and tired, a lot of people worried about what's to come. And now you've got sport involved as well. Tension's running high and there's a lot of emotions flying around. It's going to be a very, very, very interesting month, and I'm going to enjoy following it. Oh, I didn't actually know you read Akala the other day. Oh, I thought you joined me on that stream. Total coincidence. I mentioned him earlier. Yeah. I've been reading just like in chapters on here. I've been reading the book Natives. I think that's the book where he talks about it, right? I'm going to read chapter 4. No, almost finished reading chapter 4 on the last stream, but we ended up talking about something else. And then I'm going to I'll finish off chapter 4 and read chapter 5. I'll probably do that on Monday night. And I'll probably do another stream like this tomorrow at some point, I think, if I can. But yeah, brilliant book. Really brilliant book. Okay, folks. Thank you very much for joining. I've really, really enjoyed this stream. Great conversations, great debates. Got a bit heated at the start there. But it's all good. We got there in the end. I think I popped in but didn't stay for the read. No, I appreciate it, mate. I appreciate it. I'm going to catch yours as well, your stream later. Interested to see that. Listen to his music, never read his book, but I heard his Oxford Union talks, which are great. Yeah, man, his talks are brilliant. I haven't actually heard much of his music, even though I'm a grime fan. I haven't actually got into his stuff before. I think I first heard about him through like politics. Great stream, by the way. Have a good day. Thanks, mate. You too. I'm glad you're on it as well now, by the way. I'm going to be watching yours, seeing the debates that you get into. Twitch is an interesting place, my friend. All right, everybody. Peace out. Thank you very much for the follows. Thanks for joining, and I shall hopefully see you on the next one. Take care.